Welcome, Bruce. I'm Patrick English. I just wanted to welcome you to our Gull Lake Education Screening and Recommendation Forum, and thank you for running as a school board member in the upcoming election. This is a panel of GLEA members. GLEA is composed of Gull Lake School District teachers. The purpose of this forum is to determine the candidates that our association would like to endorse for the upcoming school board election. The question and answer session will be recorded, and we hope to post it publicly for online for anybody to be able to view. And we would share that link with you once it's posted. Do you have any questions about the process that we're going through right now?
No, I don't think so.
Awesome. I'm just going to let the panel go ahead and introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hello, I am Tia, soon to be Vaca, but shoemaker right now, union president, but also fourth grade teacher.
Hello, I am Ray Ann Tell, union vice president, and this year I will be teaching 12th grade English. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Bruce. I'm Shelly Henderson. I am moving from 5th grade to 6th grade here at Gull Lake, and I serve as the secretary for the union.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for your interest in our schools. We appreciate that. My name is Audra Meisner, and I am a K-5 teacher mentor in the Gull Lake Virtual Partnership Program.
And I am Beth Rhodes, also on the call. I am a high school science teacher.
Awesome. As I said, I'm Patrick English. I'm the STEM teacher at Ryan Intermediate. Some of the questions we're going to ask you, I think were kind of, you had a written response for us already, but we're going to ask those just so we can kind of get them recorded. And then I think there's a couple of new ones as we go along. So Bruce, we're just going to start with the first question, and that's as part of an opening statement, would you please provide us some background and reasons for your seeking the seat of Gull Lake Community School Board member?
Sure. I grew up in a rural community and attended a parochial high school before I attended Western at the end of '89. I majored in finance, minored in general business, met my future wife at Western in my last semester there, so it was time well spent. After college, I went to work for First of America, spent about 12 years in the banking industry. In 2005, I believe, I had an opportunity to start my own business as a professional woodworker. Took that gamble, so to speak, and did that for about 8 years. Unfortunately, that rolled us through the recession of 2008 and all the obstacles that entailed. Was fortunate to have some connections with a local contractor in the Kalamazoo area. Spent about 6 years working as started as a trim carpenter, and then was working as a site foreman on residential construction projects. I believe it was 2018, maybe, had an opportunity to go to work for a company that I had done a lot of work for as a woodworker. Went to work for RX Optical as a maintenance tech for them. So I basically perform maintenance for the 50 plus offices that RX Optical had across the state of Michigan and northern Indiana. About 2.5, 3 years ago, a company called My Eye Doctor purchased RX Optical, so I'm currently a facility specialist for My Eye Doctor, working from home, but basically coordinating maintenance for the offices we have in the states of Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Connecticut, New York, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Michigan. We moved to the Gull Lake School District in roughly 2010-ish, maybe. We had two children at the time. My oldest, I believe, was in 4th or 5th grade when she transferred into the district. My youngest son at the time was a kindergartner. So he's been through the gambit. He's a senior this year. Approximately a little over 6 years ago, we adopted two little ones. They are currently both in the Ryan 5th and 4th grade. So we've had a student go through the system. We've got students still in the system. I guess the thing that prompted me to run for this position, as we all know, there was some obstacles, opportunities, however you like to refer to them, that occurred a couple years ago. I think it was challenging for everybody. I think in my mind, there was definitely a handful of positives that came out of it. One of them, I think, is yet to be realized. I think the decision to go virtual, not just for our school, but for a lot of schools, I think kind of prompted parents to get more involved. I know in my experience anyway, I know as a parent at Gull Lake, I know parental involvement has always been a big push from the teachers and from the administration. I have yet to run across a teacher that isn't in favor of more parental involvement. And I think COVID and the way everybody kind of handled it really prompted parents to get more involved and to take a keener interest in the education of their students. I'm not going to sit here and say every parent is handling it fantastically, because I don't think they are. But I think if there's one positive that has resulted from it, it's more parental involvement, more parents being taking a stronger interest in what their kids are learning and how they're learning it. So from that perspective, that was one of the things that prompted me to run. I started attending some of the board meetings. I witnessed some of the behavior between current board members, kind of raised a few eyebrows in my own mind, got me thinking and talking about things with my wife. Really didn't decide fully to jump into that arena until some other parents started talking with me and kind of encouraging me to take that step. So after much thought and reflection, decided to have a go.
Thank you. The next question is, what are your perceptions of the strengths and weaknesses of the Gull Lake Community Schools?
Yeah, I probably should have started with my answer to the last question. I mean, as I'm sure you all know, I've already answered these questions. So if you're okay with it, I'm basically going to refer to the answers I've already given. If you'd like me to expand, I'm more than willing to. But I spent a lot of time and energy putting some thought into these, so I'd rather not just toss them aside and start fresh. Starting with strengths, I put down, I thought the board has actually done, actually the schools, I thought the schools have done a really good job of maintaining fiscal responsibility with tax dollars. And I'll confess, I didn't think that in the beginning. It wasn't until I started attending the board meetings and listening to how the dollars were being spent and where funds were being allocated, that it kind of changed my perspective as far as the level of responsibility. I was going to say my parents, but my father, more than my mother, always had a very cynical view of the school systems and funding for schools. And so some of that kind of carried forward. But like I said, I have to acknowledge that after looking at the numbers and looking at the way the school and the board, for that matter, is handling our tax dollars, I have been considerably impressed. So I felt it only fair that since that was kind of a cognitive shift in my own mind, it probably should be at the top of my list. So that's the main reason that I listed that as number one. I thought that the schools have done a pretty good job of creating an environment where students can work to achieve educational goals. I again, I've had the benefit of having a daughter start in 4th and graduate a year early. I've had a son start in kindergarten who historically has not been a great student. And again, another one of those, I guess I would call a blessing from COVID, is the remote learning for him was actually a shift or a time in his educational career where maturity happened. And so while a lot of his friends that were honor roll and exceptional students pre-COVID were having issues maintaining grades and even completing assignments, my son actually excelled in remote learning. So, and the confidence I think that he gained through that experience has kind of carried with him as he's went back to face-to-face learning. So I think he's kind of bought into the idea that grades are kind of important, and I do need to be concerned with them a little bit more than maybe I was before. And so not only are we still encouraging and pushing him to do the best he can and to maintain a grade level that we think he's capable of, but I think he's kind of taken that on as kind of a personal challenge. So again, my wife and I view that experience as it relates to COVID and how the schools handle it as a big positive for our family. That being said, I think the school's done a great job of cultivating a good staff and administrative and teaching staff. We have, like I said, we have several students in the schools, and we've really had nothing but positive experiences. The trauma and learning obstacles that my youngest two face have been extremely challenging for us. And at the same time, the teachers that we've had interaction with for both of our students have been phenomenal. I like to start the first parent-teacher conference every year for my youngest two specifically, but in general, I like to start that first parent-teacher conference, I guess, affirming our teachers that, hey, we are on your side. We know the challenges that you are going to face with these two because of what they've unfortunately been through. And, you know, we never want you to hesitate to send that email that something has happened, or, you know, they've behaved in a certain way that isn't acceptable. So this is kind of a long answer to that strength. I mean, again, I can't say enough good things about the teachers that we've had interaction with and how they've helped us work with our youngest two. And we try and reciprocate that, again, by letting them know, like, we are on your side. Like, we are never going to be upset if you are telling us that our kid did something that they're not supposed to be doing, because we see it at home all the time. So you couldn't pay me enough. In fact, my wife and I are going through that right now. We're trying to get them to grade level through the summer and not lose ground because they're already so far behind. You could not pay me enough to educate these kids on a day-to-day basis because I just do not have the patience for it. So whatever teacher gets our students deserves any kind of medal that I could possibly put together for them. Again, that being said, the last one I guess I would touch on is I think the school historically has done a really good job. And I don't know if it's so much the school or the community in general, but I think we have an extremely and exceptionally generous and supportive community. And I think we should be doing everything possible to show them the honor and respect that they deserve. Again, I think historically I think the obstacle of COVID and dealing with COVID has strained that relationship a little bit. I definitely don't think it's fully strained it, but I think there is some repair work that could be done in the right venue. So those are strengths. You want me to roll with weaknesses? If you haven't figured it out, I don't mind talking. So weaknesses, I'd like to see a higher value placed on subject mastery rather than state test taking. That's I guess, kind of a personal opinion. It seems to me, again, my oldest graduated a year early. So she was an exceptional student. And And I always found it a little frustrating that our teachers, our educators are spending a week plus prepping our students to take state exams. I kind of feel like that time could be spent better mastering subject matter rather than prepping for a state exam. I realize there's funding tied to that, and it is kind of a balancing act. I feel like there should be a better way to tackle that. So I would like to see some time and energy spent into trying to rebalance what the educational focus in the classroom should look like, and what's important from a parental perspective as much as from an educator perspective. I'd like to see academic performance trending in a more positive direction. Again, referring back to comments made at board meetings, it felt like there was positive movement in the charts and the performance. Unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to pose questions to people because it was a public meeting and public comment wasn't allowed at that point. But it seems like we're kind of getting away. We should be getting away from the direct impact of COVID. And I see, not just in the schools, but kind of across the general population and society, I see like there's a lot of reliance on that excuse of COVID. And because goals aren't being met, performance isn't being met, a lot of people want to default to COVID and blame everything on COVID. And I'm just kind of wondering, at what point do we stop using that excuse? So yeah, I'd like to see those trends moving sharply upward more than they are, and maybe some more time spent at the board level trying to define what that should look like, and then working with the superintendent to come up with strategies to achieve those goals, and then have measurable marks that we can check along the way to make sure we're reaching goals. The last thing I guess I would throw out, I'd like to see a higher priority on transparency and accountability with parents, teachers, and the community. So I'd like to see specifically the board meetings, but basically board work in general. I'd like to see as much of that open to the public as possible. Early on, it was a little frustrating to me. Several meetings were held during a typical work, between work hours. And I get that, educators and board members don't want meetings every night. But I'm not quite following why those meetings, if they're open door meetings, open to the public, why those meetings couldn't be not only broadcast live, but archived for a set period of time. I'm not proposing in perpetuity, but it doesn't seem illogical to think that those meetings could be stored on a server someplace for a week or 2 weeks, so that parents that are working and don't have the opportunity to attend those meetings in person, if they choose, if they wanted to, they would have access to that information, and they could review what was discussed between their board members and administration in order to stay in touch with what's going on and stay involved as much as they choose to be. Again, I don't see that a lot of the lessons and things that we learned through COVID basically fosters that. And I'm not sure why that wasn't done and why it wasn't jumped on right away.
Well, thank you for your answer. And again, appreciating that you answered this question that I'm about to ask you in writing already. We do want you to answer it for the record. So my question is, what do you see as a school board member's role and responsibility in the effective administration of schools? Pretty closely connects with what you last answered. What do you think the relationship should be between the Board of Education and the superintendent and other school district employees?
Yeah, I see the board as basically a group of policymakers. Again, going back to what I had written down, the school board's role is to help establish the direction and focus of the school. once direction and focus is decided, the board must put in place a framework for execution that's both attainable and measurable. So that kind of goes back to my previous answer about getting those benchmarks in place, being able to define and measure performance, basically to evaluate not only for the board and for administration and faculty, but for most importantly, the parents. Like, hey, how good of a job is our faculty doing? And again, I don't have any specific knocks on any of the faculty. My experience has been nothing but positive. But I also know that when my family and I moved here, for us, it basically came down to Gull Lake and Mattawan. Like, both schools had excellent reputations in the area. And to be honest, we didn't know anyone in either district. So it wasn't like we were moving close to friends or family. We just kind of found our way here, and we're super excited because of the reputation that Gull Lake School District's had. In terms of responsibility as the only elected school officials, from my perspective, the board's job is to help ensure schools' direction and focus accurately and effectively reflect the ideals, beliefs, values, and principles of the school's community. With that in mind, they collaborate with different stakeholders to set policy and establish educational goals. They work prudently to allocate district resources, and they champion educational and extracurricular opportunities for students. As for the relationship, yeah, I believe it should be one of cooperative tension. As the board is tasked with setting the vision and direction of the district, but the superintendent is empowered to establish and oversee execution. Obviously, the board and faculty need to be able to work closely and effectively for the betterment of the district, but I also think both sides need a freedom to attack challenges with diverse perspectives and critical thinking. Again, the board consists of publicly elected officials, and as such, they need to be the voice of the community. So for me, again, going back to why I wanted to run, I heard from a lot of members of the community, obviously not everybody, but a lot that felt like the way, and I'm going to broad brush, the way the board is representing the community right now isn't where I think it could or should be. So my goal is to, as an elected official, my goal is to represent the community. So I'm not a teacher. Unfortunately, I don't represent you all. I don't pretend to represent you all unless you have students in the district. My goal is to work with you, work with the administration, work with the support staff to help the community realize the goals and desires that they have for their students.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. This next question is similar to one that you answered in writing, and then we've added a piece to it. When making a controversial decision, what strategies do you use, and how can you involve all stakeholders in the decision-making process? So it's kind of taking two questions and putting them in one.
Yeah, so when I was at Western, like I said before, I was a finance major, so a lot of stuff is analytical. When I got into banking, I thought I wanted to be in finance, and as it turned out, I really gravitated more towards like a programming avenue. So I was fortunate enough, once I was in the door, to be able to self-teach some different computer programming languages, which opened some doors within First of America, National City, Hewitt. I was out before PNC came in the picture, but so yeah, it opened some doors in terms of programming. So by the time I left banking, I was basically doing application support and PC programming for some different departments within the structure. The reason I bring that up is because programming is very logical. Everything is an if then else statement. And other than syntax, everything boils down to if then else. So when I'm starting to attack a difficult decision, my decision making process is always if then else. So it's a decision tree that is probably horrifying to some, but that's where I start. I'm gathering facts, I'm gathering information, I'm doing my own research. I do my best to research out of a vacuum and gather different perspectives, but it always starts with my own research and coming up with my own perspective, my own opinion, my own decision. From there, I like to branch out and include other stakeholders. So in this regard, it's administration, it's faculty, it's parents, it's really anyone that wants to share an opinion. And then it's kind of a lot of brainstorming. I've been fortunate enough to work in environments where I'm a one-man show, and I've been fortunate to work in environments where it's a team environment. I feel like I've thrived in both. And so I think I have learned the ability to value different perspectives and take that into account in decision making. In this particular scenario, it's not a decision of one. So I've been in environments, in situations where we've had to make controversial decisions that were challenging and to be honest, weren't well received by people that I had hoped would have taken them better. Probably the most important thing I learned in that situation was it's extremely important for the decision makers to be unified. I don't know that we need to sing the praises of every decision from the rooftop, but we need to be very careful and very guarded about criticizing decisions that are made in a group setting in that type of situation. It's just extremely detrimental if we're not. I guess I would leave it at that. I'm not exactly sure if that answers your question. I feel like there was a part that I needed to expand on, and because I don't have it written down, I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
So on to our next question. How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to limit access to or remove books from our library?
So I don't know, and this is an interesting hot button topic. So I actually appreciate it quite a bit. I don't know that I've spoken to any parents that have said, I don't want these books in our library. I've heard from several parents that are concerned that the subject matter may be inappropriate or not at grade level. And I guess in that regard, I tend to err on the side of caution. Again, keeping in mind my reason for running and again, in my opinion, a big part of the value of the board itself is to represent the parents. So while I acknowledge there's not thousands of people that are clamoring to have books removed or reallocated to higher grade levels, I feel like there's enough that it should at least be addressed. And I don't think, whether it's this hot button issue or any issue, I don't think it's so much that people are unwilling to budge. I think we're just doing a poor job of communicating decisions. So, your question about removing books, again, I haven't heard that. And I would venture to guess that I'm probably walking with some people that there's a lot of folks that think the people I might be walking with are clamoring to get rid of books. And I don't think that's the case. So I don't think we have this division that people want to portray it as. I think we have poor communication taking place. And I don't know who's responsible for that other than the board. As the liaisons between the school district and the parents, I feel the responsibility falls flatly on them. And so that is kind of a disappointing issue that I would hope to address. I guess going back directly to your question, I'm not in favor of getting rid of books, but I am in favor of parents being informed of what is available or made available to their students. I'm in favor of guardrails being put in place that allow parents to express concern, and at the same time allow the teachers to work with parents and honor those concerns. I think there's a misconception that parents, or not that parents, I think there's a misconception that teachers are out there trying to destroy parents' kids, and I don't believe that. I don't subscribe to that. But I will acknowledge that as individuals, we all have different perspectives and ideas about what needs to be conveyed to our students. And, you know, I just feel like we have to, I feel compelled to let that deciding factor reside with the parent of a child. So in that vein, again, I'm in favor of guardrails being set up that clearly define that and allow a parent the opportunity to have that information and make that decision for their student.
Audra, I believe your question is next. Thank you, Bruce.
Sorry, are we going to keep going even though it's okay? All right.
Bring it on, I love it.
Our next person couldn't make the next time slot, so we do have a little bit of time if other committees are okay, continue.
Okay. All right. And thank you for your honesty too, Bruce. We appreciate that.
If I could jump in for a second. I'm actually on call this week at my job. So I made arrangements with my boss to kind of cover for me for this 5 to 6 o'clock slot. But to be perfectly honest, I'm loving this. So I'm totally cool. And I think she'll be fine if we go a little bit longer, but I definitely need to get done by like maybe 20 after, somewhere around there. Cause I'm getting paid to be on call and she's covering for me. So I want to be respectful of her time as well.
I think we can do it in 15 minutes. 3 more questions.
Okay, I'll try and keep it short.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Next question says, do you have any specific changes you want to make in the curriculum of our district? If so, what and why?
So this is tough for me to answer because I feel like to a certain extent I've been kept out of curriculum discussions to date. I've expressed some interest in being at some of those meetings, and maybe I haven't expressed it to the right person. So I haven't actually been at the curriculum meetings. At this point, given what I've heard and what I know, what I think I know, I don't think I have changes to the curriculum. Like I said, we've had nothing but a positive experience. I would like to reserve the right, I guess, as more information is made available to me, to revisit that. So I'm hoping that you won't hold me to that.
That's totally fair.
But yeah, I haven't really heard or seen anything. I haven't seen anything. In the interest of being transparent, which is what I'm running on, so it's only fair, I do have some concerns about the DEI curriculum that I'm told is potentially coming, and that is specifically some of the meetings that I wanted to attend. Again, I was somewhat informed that you have to be invited or on that committee in order to attend, which I found a little concerning in and of itself. The other thing was that was another meeting that was taking place during the scheduled, regular work hours. So I really didn't have an opportunity to attend, even if I could. Yeah. If you'd like me to expand on that a little bit, I'd be happy to. Based on what I think I know, not what I know for sure.
I think we'll move on, but thank you
Okay.
very much.
Sorry, so I am next. Second to last question. How much latitude should the individual teacher have in the classroom?
So again, based on my own experience, I don't have concerns. That's not to say that concerns may not arise. I think we're in a very challenging time. It's difficult to answer that because I don't know what guardrails are currently in place. Again, as an advocate for parents and, you know, and I'm going to say indirectly students, I realize this is all about the students, but again, unfortunately, students aren't electing board members. So I feel like my responsibility is to parents. If those guardrails are in place and parents have avenues to address concerns and feel addressed. And again, I think a lot of times it comes back to communication with parents. I think there's room for improvement in communicating positions in a way that are more palatable. I think there definitely should be policies and procedures in place to address concerns for parents in the event that a teacher becomes a little bit too much of an activist, I guess, for lack of a better term. Yeah, there's going to be no great way for me to answer this without spinning this into 15 minutes. And I would love to. Yeah, I would broad brush it and say I think teachers should have great latitude, and I have no problem saying that based on what I know and what I think I know. It's based on personal experience, but I think there do need to be policies and procedures in place that not only protect the parent but also protect the teacher. I think we need to be exhibit a little more forethought in addressing and trying to anticipate some of those situations. I'd like to say that everyone involved is intelligent and we should be able to anticipate problems before they end up in our lap, let's say. So I think the board needs to be more open to parental involvement and constructive criticism and do a better job of addressing that with parents to hopefully cut some of this stuff off before it becomes an issue. But if not, have the right procedures in place to address it should it become an issue.
Thanks for your answer, Bruce. We'll be asking our last question of the evening.
Thanks, Bruce, for coming today and being a part of our forum here. The last question is simply giving a closing statement of some sort. And within that statement, help us understand why you feel you're the most qualified candidate for school board.
Yeah, so the closing statement I prepared, again, I'd like to thank you guys for this opportunity. Like, you don't know me, and that's fine. If you get a chance to ask my wife, if you ever happen to see her around, this stuff fuels my soul. There's a lot of things right now that kind of weigh on me and make me a bit of a pessimist and just kind of drag me down. But this stuff energizes me. I would imagine for most of you as educators, when you see that student that gets it, it's exciting. It's energizing. This stuff energizes me. I love discussion. I love debate. I love talking about hot button topics. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I love to talk about them, and I love to get people's perspective. So with that being said, I decided to run for school board because I'm concerned about the focus of some of our current elected officials and the direction in which they're taking our schools. Not only have, in my opinion, have some of them lost touch with the people who placed them in office, but they are, in my opinion, seeking to push social agendas that could alienate parents and put students at risk. Students should always be the focus in our educational environments, and parents should broadly be included in any decisions that affect their children. I believe successful schools are built around strong parental involvement and broad community support. And for this reason, I can't sit back any longer and watch the decay of a once great relationship without trying to make a difference. So again, to recap, and again, I can't say this enough. I'm running to advocate for parents. I'm running to bring more. I don't want to imply, and I don't want anyone to infer that I don't think that there is. I'm running to bring more transparency and more openness to the way things are being handled at Gull Lake schools to the parents. I'm running to be a liaison between the administration and the faculty and the parents, because I truly believe the schools and the community have to work in tandem for both to be effective. If the schools die, the community dies. If the community dies, the schools die. So in my mind, it's critically important that that relationship is not only maintained, but cultivated. And whether it was intentional or accidental, the events of the last year and a half, 2 years, I feel have strained that relationship. And I can't just sit back on the sidelines and complain about it without at least trying to do something about it. So that's why I decided to run. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Welcome to the Gull Lake Education Association Screening and Recommendation Forum. First, I want to thank you as running for the upcoming school board election, and of course for your time and service already on the school board. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a panel of GLEA members composed of, GLEA is composed of Gull Lake School District teachers. The purpose of this forum is to determine candidates that our association would like to endorse for the upcoming school board election. This question and answer session will be recorded and hopefully posted for public viewing later this week. And we will share that link with you once we have it posted. Do you have any questions about the process at this time?
Nope.
Awesome. We're going to try to keep it within about 30 minutes. We have, gosh, I don't actually know how many questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 questions total for you, including opening statements, closing statements. We're going to try to keep it to our time that we have allowed, so until 7:30. And I think we're ready to get started. Did I miss anything? I'm looking at my teammates.
Yeah, we just want to introduce ourselves real quick. I
Yes,
think
thank you.
most of us, but Brad, I'm Tia Shoemaker, soon to be Vaca. I am union president and also 4th grade teacher.
Hi, Brad. My name is Ray Antel. I am going to be teaching 12th grade English this year at the high school, and I am vice president of the union.
Hi, Brad. Shelly Henderson. I know we've seen each other in the past. 5th grade teacher at Ryan, now moving to the middle school. Thanks for coming tonight.
No problem.
Hi, Brad. My name is Audra Meisner, and I am a teacher mentor for K-5 students in the Gull Lake Virtual Partnership.
And I'm Beth Rhodes. I teach science at the high school.
And Brad, I'm Patrick English. I teach STEM at Ryan Intermediate.
Sounds good.
I'll ask the first question, but the panel will continue to ask questions as we go. Our first questions is as part of an opening statement. Well, I should say, The first several questions, I think 4 or 5, you got them in advance and did a written response, but we're going to ask some of those questions again just to get them recorded. And then the last few questions will probably be new for you. So here we go. As part of an opening statement, please provide us with your background and reasons for seeking a seat on the school board coming up in the election.
All right. I'm a former graduate of Gull Lake Community Schools, graduated in the class of 2000. I'd like to continue on with the great tradition of graduating leaders who are great contributors to our society. We at Gull Lake have been able to graduate leaders, some going into higher forms of education and some directly into the workforce. I want to continue this great tradition with even my own children. JD, who's going to be a freshman this year. Macy is going into 6th grade, and Darby is a 4th grader. Also, with me being a teacher in the Hastings Community Schools District, I see the great influences teachers have on the learning environment within the district and serving our students. Anything you would like me to elaborate on the opening statement?
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. What are your perceptions of the strengths and weaknesses of the Gull Lake Community Schools?
Some of the great strengths that I see that we have great facilities, strong and desired graduation from the students, the faculty that teach those students, and the parents and guardians that are for those students. Excellence in all forms of our education programs. That includes quite a wide variety of our education programs that we provide through virtual partnership, the homeschool co-op, just the many options that we have that we can offer a Gull Lake student. I also really enjoy the community involvement that is for the education process. The community really gets behind our district and the processes to educate. Weaknesses within the district that I currently experience is better forms of communication, consistent messaging from the top to the bottom. I see that that messaging that we can always improve on that, and making sure where we stand is a united front for all. And also a major one that I even see as a teacher is catching all students up from post-COVID education. An interesting one that I put in that I see as a teacher, and I see also kind of experienced with my girls, is discipline. I don't know if discipline, maybe you guys may see it, might not see it, but I see discipline as a major issue that we can work towards and have a consistency in what's happening with students in disciplinary issues.
Forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, Red. All right, my next question for you today. What do you see as a school board member's role and responsibility in the effective administrations of school? And what do you think the relationship should be between the Board of Education and the superintendent and other school district employees?
So that one is an answer for that is an effective school board member should understand the role of service. School board member's role as an elected official of the people that elected them. You should be able to listen to all stakeholders in the district. From there, make our decisions based upon input and the input sought or given to that trustee. the relationship between the superintendent and the district should be the same relationship. We need to be able to listen to all those involved in the education as well. I really like to point out the service part of what you do as a school board member. It is very important that that servitude that you're giving back to the district, and the district is asking you to give your best.
Thank you, Brad. And Shelley's next.
Yes, thank you. Brad, when making a controversial decision, what strategies do you use and how can you involve all stakeholders in the decision-making process? And if you have an example of when you had to do this in a public forum or in a large group, that would be great.
When making controversial decisions, you need to be able to seek out those people, or seek out people that are going to be affected by it, people that you know that are going to be affected by the decision that you're going to be making. Also, seek all inputs in regards to that situation. I think I've always considered the counsel of others and the counsel of others and others in our district that to make that decision. Best example I can give is probably starting out this 2020 school year virtually. I was the only dissenting vote in that. And, take a lot of heat, maybe not the only one to agree with it, but it was still a major decision that, affected education.
Thank you. How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to limit access to or remove books from the library?
Right now, I guess that would be a really good question, because we are currently, going through that process and being involved on the policy for the board. And there's processes involved to make discussions in regards to those books being removed or not to be removed. I think that teachers are making decisions based upon their curriculum that I don't know if all are well informed of what the curriculum might be. At the same time, there's books that might have educational value, but at the same point, do they bring a point of education, or do they bring a point of dividing an issue into a right or wrong, yes or no? I think some books can be split into those areas. So I think we as a district need to get a better handle on some things that might be available, but at the same point, what might be available might only be the best option.
Sorry for the delay there.
No problem.
I have the next question. I'm sorry, I'll start again. Do you have any specific changes you want to make in the curriculum of our district? If so, what and why?
So sorry for thinking there for a minute. I'm just trying to think back to my experiences and maybe seeing some recent graduates and things that they would ask for to be helped with. I know we do a good job, preparing students for further education and what that might entail. But at the same point, are we doing a good job in letting them know what the real world entails? I mean, there's a lot out there that can trip you up as a young adult that you might not see coming. And I don't know what that could be. That could just be, adult studies. It could be, parenting and planning and budgeting. I mean, it could be a lot of different aspects of when you are an adult making your own decisions in life. I want to be able to put them on the right foot going forward instead of having them maybe regret some of the decisions they made in the past if they knew better. I think that, and at the same point, is there a curriculum out there for that? Maybe not. Is it more of a teaching method or institute, or I don't know what that might be, but I find that that's a tough question, but at the same point, I think we do a pretty good job curriculum wise to prepare our students to graduate. But what can we do to also prepare them to be better decision makers? Because a lot of decisions you make early on in your adult life, tend to set you on the right path or not on the right path.
Thank you, Ben. My next question for you, and you'll have one more after this. How much latitude should the individual teacher have in the classroom?
Individual latitude, I guess I would go towards the side of, as long as you're staying within what the curriculum is offering that you're suggested towards teaching, I think that is the depth and breadth of what you should be educating, and what forms for you to accomplish that progress, I think should be a little bit more broader. I mean, for me, an example of PE, I mean, there's a lot of different things that I need to be able to teach, multiple grades at multiple levels, and some can master it quickly, some are a delay on it. It's that balance of what you're trying to get. Like, half of your class will this matter quickly, the other half won't get it. So I think there's a lot of latitude for teachers to be able to accomplish those tasks. So I think as long as the teacher is able to stay within that curriculum matter that they are trying to teach, that should suffice. But yeah, can you repeat the question one more time?
Of course. The question was, how much latitude should the individual teacher have in the classroom?
Yeah, I would have to, sticking with that answer of, as long as it's able to stay within the curriculum matters, I think that is the best education process that you can be given, and you should afford that option. The best curriculum, that you're being asked to teach that curriculum the best way that possible. And I think that it's up to administration to give you guidelines in regards to that matter too, and some points.
Thank you.
Brad, I just want to say thank you for coming and being a part of our forum today. Our last question is just giving you an opportunity for a closing statement. And in that closing statement, just help us understand why you're the most qualified candidate for the school board position.
I don't know if I can say I'm the most qualified, but I might be the most willing to do the part of the servitude part of all stakeholders within the district. I just really see that that part of the education process, even being a teacher, that part of being a servant, because you're serving the students, you're serving the parents to those students and guardians. That's really important to me about that servitude. Now, I've really enjoyed my time that I've been able to serve on the board. I would like to continue on to serve. I don't think I could say my job is done or yet finished. There was other things I would love to be a part of, other things I would like to be a part of to help accomplish the goals for Gull Lake Community Schools that I have for my own kids, which would be going through that system. So, I mean, I would love to take part and enjoy the process along with them to help educate them.
I want to say welcome to the Gull Lake Education Association Screening and Recommendation Forum, and thank you also for registering to run as a school board member for the upcoming election. This is a panel of GLEA members. GLEA is composed of teachers of the Gull Lake School District. The purpose of this forum is to determine candidates our association would like to endorse for the upcoming school board election. The question and answer session will be recorded, which we hope to post for public viewing later this week. We'll share the link with you once it's posted as well.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about the process at this time?
No, I do not.
Awesome. We are going to try to stay on schedule. So we've got you here until about 8 o'clock. We've got 8 questions to go through. And I'm going to go ahead and let everybody go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hello, I am Tia Shoemaker, soon to be Vaca. That's going to happen in October. I'm union president, and I also am a 4th grade teacher.
Hi, Desiree, my name is Ray Antel. I'm a high school English teacher, and I am vice president of the union this year. And I want to add, I just got your email that the link did not go through in the first email properly for the attachment. It didn't let me share the document with you. So I'm sharing that with you now. I am so sorry. But they are virtually identical questions. There's maybe 2 that are new.
Okay.
I think it'll go okay. Let me know if it's a problem. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
So sorry.
Hi, Desiree, Shelley Henderson. I former 5th grade teacher, now moving to the middle school, and I'm secretary for the union.
Hi, Desiree. My name is Audra Meisner, and I am currently a K through 5 teacher mentor with the Gull Lake Virtual Partnership.
I don't think, oh, there she goes.
I'm Beth Rhodes, and I teach science at the high school.
And I'm Patrick English, STEM teacher here at Ryan. Ray, so she's just getting the questions now. Is that what's going on?
Yes.
Desiree, do you want to take just a couple minutes just to be able to read them before we start?
Sure, that would be great. Thank you.
Go for it.
All apologies, Desiree.
Oh, that's okay. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Perfect. Seems only fair, right? Give you a little look.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
No problem. I'm going to start, and everybody will ask questions kind of in order, but the first thing we're going to do is, as part of an opening statement provide us with your background and reasons for seeking a seat on the upcoming school board election.
My family and I moved here in 2007, and our girls were 5 and 2 at the time. And when we were looking for a place to move to, we could have chosen anywhere from Ann Arbor down all the way over to Rockford, down to the bottom of the state. My husband was taking over the west side of the state's territory. So as a former teacher, well, I was a current teacher at that point, but as a teacher, I was part of the decision-making process in moving was the school system. That was like the most critical thing for me. And so did a ton of research, looked at Kalamazoo, Berry, and Allegan counties because my parents had relocated here from the east side of the state, and we wanted to stay close to my parents. And so after doing a lot of research, we chose Gull Lake to move here. And with my youngest entering her senior year, both of our girls have gone K through 12 and have been very successful in Gull Lake schools. And I am a former teacher. I am a current certified teacher. I'm not currently teaching, but I am a certified teacher. I manage a law firm. When I was teaching, I completed my field work in Flint, Michigan. I did my student teaching in Chicago. I taught in the suburbs of Chicago. And then when we moved here and my youngest was a little bit older and she was in preschool, I started subbing in KPS and in Gull Lake. From 2015 to 2019, I served on the township board as a township clerk, running elections. I did payroll and HR and ran the cemetery. So I have a lot of experience on a board, serving on a board during some contentious times as well. So definitely know how to navigate those waters. And I decided to seek a seat on the Board of Education because I believe in public education. I believe in working collaboratively to ensure our schools provide equitable educational opportunities for all, and as such, attract families to our community. I think that my educational and employment background, my wide knowledge base, my desire to serve our community, and my understanding of governance and its processes make me an excellent candidate to be on the school board.
Thank you. I believe Audra's question is next.
Sorry, I was writing stuff down. Next question is, what are your perceptions of the strengths and weaknesses of Gull Lake Community Schools?
I think that Gull Lake Community Schools provides many opportunities for student learning within the classroom and outside of the classroom. I think excellent summer programs are offered to keep kids on track, to help them maintain their education. The teachers are so engaged and just so readily available to the students. The testing data, I recently attended a school board meeting where they shared the testing data, and it looked very positive considering some of the difficult years that everybody has faced at Gull Lake, or everywhere actually, where everybody has faced. So it's really encouraging to see those positive leaps that we have taken in Gull Lake. I think that there's excellent extracurricular activities that the district offers. Both of my daughters have been a part of that during their time at Gull Lake. I think that areas that would benefit from attention are teacher, staff, and substitute pay. I think we've definitely seen in the past couple of years a mental health crisis that's facing our students and our staff because of what we have all gone through in the past couple of years. And I think that we need to address the lack of staffing in many areas in our district, and communication, as always, is key.
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting myself. There we go. Yes, thank you. My question for you tonight is, what do you see as, oh, screen dropped, hang on, sorry. There we go. What do you see as a school board's member's role and responsibility in the effective administration of schools? What do you think the relationship should be between the Board of Education and the superintendent and other school district employees?
I see a school board member's role as one of collaboration with its fellow members, the superintendent, the staff, and the community. There are many shareholders in a school district, and it's important to work together for a common goal, which is educating all students. The role and responsibilities include understanding and working within the parameter of the budget, evaluating and reviewing curriculum, adopting policy, evaluating the superintendent, evaluating school facility needs, community relations, and advocating for public schools.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Desiree, we took 2 questions and kind of put them together for this time. So when making a controversial decision, what strategies do you use and how can you involve all stakeholders in the decision-making process? And if possible, if you could give us an example, if you've had to do this in a public forum or with a large group, that'd be great.
Yep. So being on a township board, you're bound by the Open Meetings Act. So all of your decisions, with the exception of personnel, some personnel decisions, attorney-client privilege, communication has to be made in the public eye. So you definitely want to consult with your fellow board members on that. I think, I leaned on our attorneys when making decisions, just because they know the law, they know what you can and can't do. I think that you're responsible to research as much as possible when making those decisions, and leaning on the experts, leaning on your superintendent, talking to your staff, your teachers, and definitely, we talk about the stakeholders in our district being the parents. You definitely want to get their input. We have some very vocal parents in our district, and I think that's good. They share what they want to know. I'm a questioning parent myself. I know when we've gone through different things in the district, I don't hesitate to call the teacher, call the administrator, kind of going up the chain, but just making sure that communication is open. Making sure that communication is open and that you really are kind of finding out, pulling all of those in to help in your decision-making process.
All right. How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to limit access to or remove books from the library?
I do not believe in book banning. I think that as a parent, you have the right to limit what your own child reads. I don't think you have the opportunity to do that for everybody else's children. I think that we need to rely on our experts, our librarians who have gone to school, our teachers who have gone to school for this. There is a process in place when they are picking curriculum, when they are picking books for our library. And I would look at the books that they're talking about and try to help them understand why these books are available. But I don't believe in pulling them off the shelves. I really think that we need to, you guys are the experts. You're the ones who have gone to school, and I think we need to trust in our teachers and our schools to make those decisions as to what can be in a school library, in a classroom library. And again, if the parent does not want their student reading that material, they have the right to say that I don't want my student to read that.
Thank you.
All right, the next question is, do you have any specific changes you want to make in the curriculum of our school district? If so, what changes do you want to make and why do you want to make those changes?
Another good question. At this time, I don't think of anything specific. There is nothing specific in my mind that I would want to change in the curriculum. As a teacher, I think we want to make sure that our curriculum is meeting the needs of all of our students, from our special needs students to our gifted students, and to everyone in between. We need to make sure that we are meeting the needs. And I know it's a difficult thing to do, but curriculum that would have differentiation built right into it would be great. We've, as a substitute, I've seen, it's been a few years since I've been in the classroom at Gull Lake, but as a substitute, I didn't see anything that I was, that bothered me. I think the curriculum that is chosen is well thought out. It goes through the process when you're choosing it. And I was on curriculum committees when I was a teacher, so I know that process that takes place. So I'm not looking to make any specific changes in the curriculum. I think what you're doing with the diversity, equity, inclusion committee that you have with the school board, I think that's great. And I think that we need to continue on in that line.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So how much latitude should the individual teacher have in the classroom?
I think that we all have standards we have to follow. The Michigan standards that are set in place, we have curriculum that we have to follow. And then I think that there's definitely room in there for us to use our own creativity in the classroom as well, bringing extra things in. Obviously, we want to make sure that those things that we're bringing in are approved by the district. But I think, again, I said it before, you're the experts. You've gone to school for years. You do continual education. It never ends for us as teachers. You guys are always doing your professional development, and it's so important to have that. It's so important to lean on one another and have those opportunities to work with one another and see what you guys are doing in the classroom, see what your other teachers are doing in the classroom. And it's so hard for us, especially now with the substitute shortage. It's so hard to get out there and do those things. But I think we need to rely on you. You're the experts. And I think that you should have the ability and the flexibility and some of those freedoms to do those things that you see fitting the needs of your class at the time.
All right, thank you, Desiree. We're headed to our last question, but I just wanted to say thank you for your time and being a part of this forum and coming and giving us that opportunity to talk with you today. So I'm just going to give you an opportunity for a closing statement. And in that closing statement, help us understand why you're the most qualified candidate for the upcoming school board election.
Sure. And thank you for all of your time. I know emails have been coming in the month of August, and we're all looking at the close of summer and the start of school. So I appreciate the time that you're putting forth. And I was pleasantly surprised to receive the email from Ray doing this. It gives me a nice opportunity. I made the decision at the last minute. If you would have asked me probably July 1st, if I ever wanted to run for school board, the answer probably would have been no. But then I started researching some of the things that have been going on in our district, and I found it concerning. And as a teacher, as a parent, as somebody who could just wipe my hands and walk away at this point, because I got a senior coming up, right? My kids are done. However, I love this district. I love our community. I want to see this district go forward in the way that my girls have been able to experience it. They've had an exemplary education. They've had wonderful teachers in this district. I think you guys do great things here. We've had a rough couple of years, but you guys have stayed the course and you keep going. And I think that we need parents out there, school board members, to fight for you and with you, working together for our community and for our kids. I didn't make this decision on my own. I talked to my husband, I talked to my kids. They were all for it. I was surprised that they were for it, knowing what some of the the things that the school board and the teachers have faced. But yeah, they were like, nope, Mom, you got to do it. And I think having been a part of the community, as we have, having been a teacher, having served on a township board, knowing how these things work, how those decisions work, I'll be one voice, but I'm going to use my voice to advocate for public education. And that's why I'm doing it. I think that people know me. They know that I'm kind of a no nonsense person. I'm going to find out the best way to do things. And I have a lot of experience working on boards. I lots of volunteer boards. I sent my resume along with the questions that you guys had sent. So hopefully you had a chance to look at that, because it was a lot of, I didn't want to list it all out again. So I thought it was easier just to send it that way. But just having worked on curriculum committees, having led boards before, knowing the decision-making processes and what the Open Meetings Act means. I just think that I'm going to use my voice, my knowledge, my experience that I have to work collaboratively with my fellow board members to ensure the continued success of Gull Lake Community Schools, because we are very happy that we moved here to raise our children in this district, and we want to keep encouraging that kind of thing for other families to move in. We want to keep attracting people to our community because you guys are doing a great job, and we want to see it continue that way. And I thank you again for the opportunity to speak to all of you. Thank you for your time, and thank the community too. I'll be working on a website, so if people want to get a hold of me that way, they can.
Welcome to the Gull Lake Education Association Screening and Recommendation Forum. Thank you for registering to run as a school board member in the upcoming election. Appreciate that. This is a panel of GLEA members. GLEA is made up of Gull Lake teachers. The purpose of this forum is to determine the candidates our association would like to endorse for the upcoming school board election. This question and answer session will be recorded and hopefully posted for public viewing later this week. And we will share that link with you once we have that posted. Do you have any questions about the process at this time?
No.
Awesome. We are going to try to keep on schedule. We're looking to go until about 8:30. We have about 8 questions for you total. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and let our members introduce themselves.
Hello, I am Tia Shoemaker, soon to be Tia Vaca. I'm the union president, and I'm also a 4th grade teacher at Ryan Intermediate.
Hi, I'm Ray Antel. I teach high school English, and I am currently the vice president of our union.
Hi, Shane. I'm Shelly Henderson. I've been at Ryan Intermediate teaching 5th grade. I am now moving to the middle school, and I am the secretary of our union.
Hi, Shane. My name is Audra Meisner. I am currently a K-5 teacher mentor with the Gull Lake Virtual Partnership. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Shane. I'm Beth Rhodes, and I teach biology at the high school.
And I'm Patrick English, teaching STEM here at the Ryan. I'm going to go ahead and ask our first question. As part of an opening statement, please provide us with your background and reasons for seeking a seat of the Gull Lake School Board in the upcoming election.
Okay, well, I've been born and raised here in Hickory Corners. My family goes back to Gull Lake before Gull Lake was Gull Lake, when it was just Kellogg. I'm not really happy with the way things are going with the school. I've got 3 kids all in the Ryan right now. And I see some problems. My daughter can't read. It's my son, my oldest son, Nicholas, has been, I don't want to say reprimanded, but he's been scolded maybe a little bit for doing math in his head, not showing his work, even though he gets all the answers right. And I think we need to take a few steps back and get back to the basics of education and get kids thinking for themselves again, not just memorizing answers to questions, but to get them thinking, figuring out, and coming to the answers on their own. I'm not sure if they can hear me or not.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
You're good.
Thank
We
you.
can hear you. I'm sorry. It was my mistake for the delay. I apologize. The next question says, what are your perceptions of the strengths and the weaknesses of the Gull Lake Community Schools?
Well, I think Gull Lake should be held to a very high standard. We've got some of the best resources in the state of Michigan to educate these kids. We have such a diversified culture, and we've got people from all different avenues of life coming into this school, and we're not utilizing that, and we're not sharing all of their backgrounds and allowing the kids to evolve into what they need to be, if that makes sense.
Can you elaborate when you say the best resources? What do you mean by that?
Okay, well, I guess, like, I'm a farmer. I started from nothing, and I've built myself my own little empire here, I'm going to call it. And I've tried to share my environment with the school kids, and I've been shot down by the superintendent, maybe by this board, I'm not sure, but I've tried to bring a school garden to the school before the planter boxes were put in at Ryan. I've offered to do it on my own land at my own expense. I've brought animals to the school on like field day at the end of the year, just to try to engage some of these kids in my end of the world. And how do I want to say this? I guess it's been met with a lot of hesitation because people don't understand it. But when I look at it, I see these kids, they plant, let's say, a pumpkin in the spring, and they come back in the fall, and they see the reward of what they've done all summer. And then we have, let's say, doctors and engineers, and we've got some of the best home builders, contractors in the area. You look at some of the houses on Gull Lake, they're beautiful, beautiful houses on Gull Lake that you couldn't recreate anywhere in the state of Michigan. And we've got nobody teaching these kids how to do that. You've got all this.
I appreciate you expanding on that. What do you see as some of the weaknesses for Gull Lake schools?
Well, I think the biggest weakness is the kids coming out of school not prepared for life. They're coming out and they're working, some of the kids I see just around Richland and the surrounding areas are working very minimal jobs. They're putting in very little effort, and they're expecting huge rewards for this. And I think, I'm not saying it's all the school's fault, because the parents obviously need to be involved too. But I don't think anybody's pushing the whole, if I work hard, I can do what I can reach what I want to reach.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
So I've got your next question. It is a two-part question. What do you see as a school board member's role and responsibility in the effective administration of schools? And what do you think the relationship should be between the Board of Education and then the superintendent and other employees of the district?
Well, I guess my perspective on a school board trustee would be to translate what the parents want to see the school do, what direction the parents want to go. And that's not just one side. I'm not going to say one direction of parents, but you need to consider that in a whole and figure out how to bring all of that together to benefit everybody. And then incorporate that into the curriculum. And then I guess I don't know.
I can ask a question again if you like. Here's a question. Would that, does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
Cool. No problem, man. So basically, it's what do you think a school board member's role and responsibility is in effective administration of schools? And what do you think the relationship should be between the Board of Education and the superintendent and other school
Right. Okay. So
employees?
let's do the second half here. I think the superintendent should definitely be steering the school and managing the schools and the employees, the teachers, the extra help in the direction that the parents want it to go. So to me, I guess it'd start with the parents, the taxpayers, and you get their opinions, their directions. The school board will then pass it on to the superintendent, and the superintendent would be more responsible, I guess, for incorporating in the follow through, the end game of the follow through of making those plans work.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Shane. We took two questions and kind of put them together in this next one. When making a controversial decision, what strategies do you use, and how can you involve all stakeholders in the decision-making process? And if you can give us an example of when you've had to do this in a public forum or within a large group, that would be great.
Yes. So when we answered this one on the paper, I just brought it right down to common sense and facts. You really can't let your emotions steer your direction. I know this past election was a big one. Everybody talks about it. They still are talking about it. It's still a big deal in the news. But I didn't let my emotions steer me. I just put together my perspective, the facts that I understood, the direction I wanted to see things go, and that's how I voted. People may disagree with me, but that's how I see it. You got to look at X, Y, and Z, and if it makes sense on paper, if it all adds up, then that's the direction we're going to go. If we're adding up X, Y, and Z and we're getting 1, 2, and 3, it's not working. They're moving, but I can't hear them.
Sorry, we are muted so that you could be the forefront and there's no feedback. So that's why you're not hearing us respond right away, because we're taking notes and stuff. So just wanted to clarify that. All right. So on to the next question. How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to limit access to or remove books from the library?
That's very good, because this was a pretty hot topic I see today. My personal opinion is if there are books like that in the library, they should be removed. That may not agree with everybody else, but when you get the irate parent, let's say, you definitely need to hear their side of the story and make them understand that you're listening to them, and then evaluate the situation and see if it's really, let's say, that extreme is what we saw today, or if it was just maybe somebody being a little overly cautious, or somebody taking their personal opinion a little too far. That's a pretty loaded question. To me, that would have to be handled on a case-by-case basis. But I I do think there are inappropriate books, maybe not in Gull Lake, but if you watch the videos on Facebook today of the hearing, there probably was some stuff that shouldn't be in schools. Not saying that's the case here, but it would be a case by case basis to me.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, do you have any specific changes you want to make in the curriculum of our school district? If so, what curriculum changes would you like to make and why?
I would love to see a lot of curriculum changes, and I would definitely go more for the trades and the hands-on. Let's get dirty, let's build something, let's figure out how this works type of thing. And I'd like to see that started a lot earlier than middle school, high school, because for me, I grew up on my grandparents' dairy farm when I was really little, and be able to walk around with wrenches and hammers and build things, that's lasted a lifetime for me. That's allowed me to think outside the box and to do things that most people wouldn't be able to do because they weren't allowed to discover their abilities. You know, everybody's got the ability to rebuild an engine. It's whether or not you were given the opportunity. What? My wife's trying to give me postcards. But I want to see more hands-on stuff. I really do. When I was a kid in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, the schools used to come to our dairy farm for a field trip. And they could see the cows, they could interact with the calves. If you've been in the district long enough, I'm 36, so if you were in school back then in the district, you probably came to our farm for a field trip. And that just, it gets the wheels turning for these kids, not just in the agriculture world, but it just branches off into so many aspects of life. I really want to see these kids succeed like that.
Thank you.
So your next question, how much latitude should the individual teacher have in the classroom?
Can you go into a little more detail about that?
Yeah, so basically what I'm asking is how much leeway should the teacher have in deciding how they run their classroom?
Okay, might be a little bit loaded, but if the teacher is doing a fantastic job educating the children and the children are coming out better, evolved, better mindset, they're thinking, they're moving forward, that's great. If the teacher's sitting there just, let's say, letting them play with Play-Doh in the 5th grade just because it feels good in their hands, that's not going to really fly with me. But as long as we're moving forward and the kids are progressing, I think it's great, because you can't teach every kid, and not every teacher is the same. So having the variety of I don't want to say cultures. What do I want to say here? Having the variety of different
Learning styles.
Yeah, learning stuff. Perfect. Yes, the different learning styles I think would go a long way.
Thank you very much.
All right, Shane, I've got your last question coming up, but before I do, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come and be a part of this today. We really do appreciate your time and your efforts. And so I'm just going to give you the opportunity to give a closing statement. And in that closing statement, if you could help us understand why you're the most qualified candidate for the Board of Education position.
Okay, well, I know a lot of this is going to turn into left, right, maybe a popularity contest. I don't care if I'm left or right. I don't care if you know what I'm left or right. Obviously, you probably can tell by now, but I don't put my personal beliefs in front of making the decision for my own children. and I wouldn't do it for other children. What I personally believe fits my lifestyle, I'm not going to say it's going to fit yours or your children's, and I'm not going to force that upon them. I just want them educated in the best way we can. And I think Gull Lake is capable of a lot more than what they're doing. It's a little disappointing to me to see the direction the school has gone the last few years. And I know COVID has like thrown that out there and everybody's frustrated with it, but we can do better. These children deserve better. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, black, white, purple, blue, doesn't matter. As long as we're educating these children and they're learning and we can get back up to the top. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go in Southwest Michigan. You hear Gull Lake and everybody thinks, wow, that's the it place. But we're not turning out the it children. We're just turning out the same old as everybody else. And these children deserve better than that. My children, your children, all of them. And that's kind of where I stand.
But yeah, I want to welcome you to the Gull Lake Education Association Screening and Recommendation Forum. And I want to thank you also as registering to run for the upcoming school board election and of course for your time already spent on our school board. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
This is a panel of GLEA members. GLEA is composed of the Gull Lake teachers. The purpose of this forum is to determine candidates that our association would like to endorse for the upcoming school board election. The question and answer session will be recorded and we hope to post it a little bit later this week. We will share that link with you once it's posted. Do you have any questions about the process that we're going through right now?
I do not. I thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Absolutely. We do have about a 30-minute session, so we're going to try to keep on schedule. We have 8 questions total, and I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves.
Hi, I am Tia Shoemaker, soon to be Tia Vaca. I'm getting married in October. I am GLEA president, and I am also a 4th grade teacher at the Ryan.
Hi, Minnie. Shelley Henderson, former 5th grade teacher at the Ryan, moving to the middle school this fall. I'm super excited for the opportunity to do that. And I serve as the secretary for GLEA.
And I'm Patrick English, STEM lab teacher here at Ryan Intermediate. So I'll get started with the first question.
Real quick, Patrick, hold on.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I did want to say, Minnie, there are more to our committee, but due to rescheduling, they're going to view the videos and then we'll make our recommendation. So please don't think it's just 3 of us. There are more. We just had to be a little creative.
Good clarification, yeah. So yeah, as part of an opening statement, please provide us with your background and reasons for seeking a seat on the Gull Lake Board of Education.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity again. I know all of you and I feel very comfortable in this format talking with you, and I will say I was nervous, but seeing your faces, I'm a little less nervous. And the reason that I'm nervous is that your validation or in terms of your support mean a lot to me. And so bear with me while I get the nerves out, but thank you again for this opportunity. So to introduce myself, you all know me, I'm Minnie Murphy. By training, I'm a medical microbiologist. I have a PhD in biological sciences with a specialization in virology, the study of viruses. And it's this educational background that provides me really with a strong critical thinking skills, ability, a very detailed oriented nature, which might not be good at all times, but and a strong appreciation for education, especially as I am a daughter of immigrant parents. Education was always stressed in our household, and it was very valued. So I respect that. I currently work for a contractor for the Department of Defense's congressionally directed medical research programs. We support medical research for our service members, our veterans, and their families and beneficiaries. My husband and I have lived in the district for the past 15 years. Time does fly. We have 3 beautiful daughters, 2 who have graduated from the Gull Lake District, and 1 who is going to enter high school. My heart. So, I really love the district. I've been a part of it for many years now. And since my kids have been in kindergarten, I have actively volunteered in the classrooms to help with reading and math. I've sat in the hallways with flashcards and books to help the kids who needed extra help. I was always available to teachers when they wanted volunteers. I've also served as a coach for Destination Imagination and Odyssey of the Mind. I've coached Girls on the Run, and I've also recently, last 2 years ago, I guess, worked on the grants committee for the Gull Lake Community Schools Foundation. I'm currently a trustee of the Gull Lake Community Schools Board of Education, and I have had the privilege of serving on the board for the last 5 years. I'm running for re-election because I really believe in and respect the quality that public education provides. And I think that this quality of public education is important for the success of all our students. To achieve this, I believe it's critical to work with and listen to our students, our teachers, our staff, and administration. I've made a very conscientious effort to reach out whenever I needed input from teachers and administration and staff. I have enjoyed working on the board over the past 5 years. It has been challenging at many times, but I've stayed the course, and I have gained an extensive knowledge and a real deep understanding of our school district. I've served as the chair of the curriculum committee, as a member of policy, personnel, and community relations committees. And I've also served as the chair of the diversity, inclusion, and equity subcommittee, which I was involved in creating, and I'm very proud of. I've worked hard to ensure that our teachers and students have been supported over the last 5 years, and I have been committed to enhancing STEAM programs, expanding the Excel program, supporting innovative curricular programs. And I value, different perspectives and the various perspectives of our community. And I've tried my best to listen to all stakeholders when making these difficult decisions, and to ensure that I represent these different groups. It's not always easy. It's oftentimes challenging, but I do my best. And I can say it's truly been an honor and a privilege to serve the community in this capacity. And I hope to continue to serve the district this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Minnie. What are your perceptions of the strengths and weaknesses of Gull Lake Community Schools?
And I gave this a lot of thought, and strengths was super easy for me because it's a no-brainer for me. Serving on the board and over the last few years watching, I know that the greatest strength of our school district is the hardworking, compassionate, dedicated teachers, our staff and administrators, and they are the heart of the success of the district. We have a well-known, well-reputable district. People come to our district because of our education, and I believe at the core of that success is our teachers, staff, and administrators. We also offer a wide array of innovative K-12 programs and offerings, as well as the virtual partnership and Gateway Academy, and these are additional strengths. And I'd also add that the district has made really strong and sound fiscal decisions while we've invested in important infrastructure, such as the Center for Fine Arts, which we're really excited about. The improvements to the elementaries, they look beautiful every time I drive by, and there's a pride in my heart to see that, as well as the important educational technology. We've been in the forefront and making sure that technology is available to our students and teachers, Chromebooks, the internet access during the pandemic, and iPad. So I think these are all great strengths of our district. I think you asked me weaknesses, and I don't want to consider them weaknesses. I rather believe they're areas for improvement. And I believe we can further improve relations and communications with our students, parents and residents in the district. The district and board have experienced political divisiveness and have had to deal with really unprecedented influence and noise over the past few years. And it's been difficult. And I think refocusing this noise and divisiveness to avoid infighting, we need to find a common ground, and that will involve really prioritizing our students, their achievements, their safety, their wellness, and their well-being over everything else.
Thank you, Minnie. What do you see as a school board member's role and responsibility in the effective administration of schools? And what do you think the relationship should be between the Board of Education, the superintendent, and other employees?
Right. So that is a great question. And I think effective administration of the schools really involves collaboration and flexibility between the superintendent and the district employees. Shared decision-making is key. I think most essentially trusting our teachers rather than micromanaging them is important. And I think listening to all voices, receiving input from experts when we don't have the expertise in certain areas is also vital. And all this really stems from a strong, open, supporting relationship between the board and the superintendent. And I think that's critical to the district's operations. And I think we've established that with our current superintendent. Rafe has, been very open, and we've established good communication between him and the board. And there's never a time that I don't hesitate to text him or call him. And, when I have concerns, he's very responsive. And I think that's the core of it. And I think, the relationship between the board and the superintendent and all employees in the district should involve collaboration, and I think establishing clear goals, effective communication. And, it's important to build consensus, even though it's difficult. That consensus really is important. That it means respecting each other's viewpoints and perspectives.
Thank you, Minnie. When making a controversial decision, what strategies do you use, and how can you involve all stakeholders in that decision-making process? And if possible, giving an example of when you've maybe done this in a public forum or large group.
Right. And I have dealt with making quite a few controversial decisions as a Gull Lake Community Schools Board of Education trustee, especially over the last few years. The strategies I've always used in all these situations was to listen to others, to gain insight and input, especially by listening to those individuals who are going to be directly impacted by my decision making. For example, my students, my teachers, and my parents in the district. They're the critical stakeholders, and I always rely on them to give me guidance. I truly make an honest effort to refrain from making unilateral decisions. I look to expert advice and guidance, especially when I don't have an expertise in an area. And that really comes from my educational background, where I seek knowledge where I don't have it, and I learn as much as possible to educate myself. So that's how I make controversial decisions, getting the input, seeking help where I need it, seeking advice and expertise where I lack it, and, not making unilateral decisions. Some of the toughest decisions I've had to make were during the COVID-19 pandemic, as you all know, that those last 2-3 years, it seems like longer than that, were examples of times when I made controversial decisions. And these were done in a public forum on Zoom calls with hundreds of parents, students, teachers, and, these deliberations went long. They were emotionally charged. As a parent myself, when it comes to my child, I know what emotions are involved because my kids are in those buildings. So that gives me that perspective as well. And it gives me the ability to have patience and understanding because I feel it. I feel what the parents do. But as a board member, I also have additional knowledge that sometimes parents don't have. And I think, I use all of that to make my decisions. Some of the tough decisions that I had to make were regarding reopening the schools, to provide, decisions on masking and unmasking, to switch from virtual to on-site, and to decide when it was safe to go back to school for our teachers and students. And I didn't take any of these decisions lightly. I lost a lot of sleep because I value everybody's opinions, and safety ultimately trumps all of this. But I think through it all, having my background in virology, having experts, my colleagues at the NIH and the CDC really helped make my decisions a little bit stronger. And hopefully, through it all, I hope I did the right thing. And I believe I did. It was tough, but I think we came out on top at the end, and I'm proud of how the school district handled it. It wasn't pretty at all times, but I think we learned an immense amount. And I think looking back, we are ready for the next pandemic. I'm at the forefront of this research and these types of viruses as they come. And I believe this isn't the first, and I think there'll be future ones, but I think our district is well prepared. I really commend the teachers and the administration for stepping up and coming up with innovative ideas. And even when they weren't happy, they followed through and did what we needed to do. And that was our greatest strength. That's it.
Thank you. Next question. How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to limit access to or remove books from the library?
Right. And this is a situation that we have currently had to deal with. I do not believe books should be banned. I believe that books should be available to students, but they should be age appropriate. They should be appropriate for educational purposes. And I don't think books should be banned. I think that parents should be given the right to sign paperwork that should allow them and their students not to have access to books that they feel are inappropriate or not something they want their kids to read. And that is a parent's prerogative. And I believe in that right. As a parent, if I don't want my child to read something, I think we should respect that. And I think that is their right. And I'm sure that there's certain books that maybe my children read that I would ask them, why are we reading this? And I would be involved in understanding and reading with them. So I'm available to answer any questions that they had. But I do not feel that books should be banned. As long as they're age appropriate, I think they should be available. We do have certain books that are behind the desk and you need permission to sign out. I believe that is a good way to regulate some of these more controversial books. But I do not believe that we should start banning books because certain individuals might not think they're appropriate for their family. But I do strongly believe that parents should have a say in what their children have access to and what their children bring home. And if they feel strongly against something, I do feel that they should have the right to address that with the administration and the respective teachers.
Great, Minnie, thank you. Do you have any specific changes you would like to make in the curriculum in the district? And if you do, why?
So curriculum is something that's very dear to my heart. And I don't believe in, and I think this might bleed into your next question, don't believe that teachers should be micromanaged. I think we have exceptional teachers and staff and you three are excellent examples. Tia, I haven't had the opportunity, unfortunately, to work with you, but and I wish I had. But Shelley and Patrick, you are two exemplary, teachers in our district, and I've been in both your classrooms, and I can't tell you how proud I am that we have you in our district. And I don't think teachers like yourselves need to be micromanaged. You know what you need to do, and you come to us at Curriculum with innovative and exciting proposals and ideas. And really, it makes my job easy because I look at this and I'm excited. I ask the relevant questions and you guys fly with it and you ride with it and you bring it to fruition, and my brain is blown. And I am proud of the innovation and the curriculum and the vast, types of classes that our kids have access to. Japanese, my daughter was going to enroll in Japanese classes because she had a passion for it. And you know what? It was available. Sign language, when she wanted to learn sign language, it was available. French, Chinese, it's all there. And how many districts can say that? The fact that we have teachers that want to support the kids for whatever their passions are and their interests are, and to show that they care and put these classes out there shows tremendous excitement for me in terms of curriculum. And I put ideas out there to the curriculum committee. There are, there are certain expectations that I have. I'd like to see some of, our scores go up, our MEPs, our scores for social studies and science, mathematics, but, we're working on it, and it's a group effort, and it takes time to get these processes in place. And I understand that being on the committee, but small steps like, expanding the Excel program. I am so proud of the work that Linda Clancy has done with Excel and giving her the opportunity to have more time with the students and hiring additional staff so she, can focus on her program and expand it. That was something that I took great pride in. And so, I look to the teachers to provide guidance. I look to the administration because they are the hands, and the people on site and in the buildings, and they know students and they know what the students are coming to the teachers with. And I rely on the students. They are brilliant in terms of their knowledge and what they want, so, so Shelley, I hope I've answered your question. I really, I give a lot of freedom to our teachers, administrators to come up with these ideas and these innovative approaches, and I foster that. And I hope, I hope that is out there, that you all know that we support you.
So you did kind of answer my question, but if anything else you want to expand on, how much latitude should individual teachers have in the classroom?
And I think teachers should have a lot of latitude in the classroom, as long as they abide by whatever laws are in place. Because I've been going through all our new policy procedures, because I am on the policy committee. We need to abide by what's in place by law. That's for sure. But I think that said, I think teachers should have the latitude to have different chairs and desks in the classroom if that is conducive to students learning. I think they should have latitude to present, books that they feel the students are excited about within whatever limits and parameters they do have to abide by in terms of age appropriateness. I believe, field trips or having classroom outside one day because it's, a great sunny day and, we want to learn about plants and there are new flowers that are blooming. I think innovation and opening your mind and thinking outside the box are critical, especially with the different learning styles and abilities that our children have. Really, you can't, especially this new generation, you can't force a regimented routine that worked for me, when I was a kid, but, those don't apply to the younger generation. And they are brilliant in their own ways, but they need to be challenged and excited. And with that comes, new ways of teaching. And I am very excited and open to that. As long as we keep our standards, we meet our curricular, standards that the state does expect as a public educational entity. I think there are, ways that we can do things differently. So I'm always open to that.
Excellent. We're coming up to our last question, and I just wanted to say thank you one more time for joining us today and taking some time to answer the questions that we have for you. And I'm just going to give you an opportunity to give a closing statement. And as you do, help us understand why you're the most qualified candidate for the upcoming school board election.
Okay, so tooting my own horn has always been difficult for me, even for my performance evaluations. I struggle with that. I'm a person who does the job. You give me the task, I will get it done, and I've always exceeded expectation. I think people underestimate me many times, and I used to be bothered by that. I don't know why, but it bothered me. But what I realize is that when people don't set high expectations for you, you excel. And I have excelled, and I have exceeded most expectations of me. I've stood my ground. I've maintained my integrity through the entire process. I've seen things written about me on social media. I've seen things posted about me by people that don't know me, that don't know my character, that don't know the person that I am. And it's easy to say, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to run away from this. But I really believe in our district. I believe in our teachers, and I believe that we need to safeguard our educational system and work with the teachers and the administration to provide the education that we've been providing in Gull Lake. It hasn't been an easy 5 years, but I've really appreciated what I've learned. I've appreciated the strong relationships that I've built with the staff, the teachers, and the administrators. When I said I have, I text the superintendent when I have questions, this is the truth. I do. Lisa, Rafe, Drew, I text them when I have questions. I've worked with the board. I have a strong relationship with all the trustees. We work very well together for the most part, and we respect one another, and we work towards consensus. And I think, it's that type of personality that you need, someone who's willing to work with others, come to the table without an agenda. And I've done that. I've listened, even when I think we should do one thing, if I can be convinced otherwise, and it's a strong argument, and it's rational, and you can give me the basis for those decisions, I'm flexible. And I think you need people like that at the table, someone who's willing to listen to both sides. And I'm usually in the middle. I'm not an extreme on either ways, even though, I might come across and I think the social media picks up that, but I'm not. What I would say is I've truly enjoyed serving as a trustee for the Board of Education. I've learned a great deal on the operations of the school district. I've built strong professional relationships with the members of the district, including parents and students. I take pride in that I've helped to ensure the continued success of our district during a very difficult time. The pandemic was not easy for any of us, and we're still recovering from it physically, emotionally, mentally, and I'm highly aware of that. And I feel proud that I was involved in getting the district through that. I care deeply for our district, and I hope that comes across. And I value our students and our teachers and our educational system that we provide at Gull Lake. And I want to continue to ensure that excellent work continues. Why do I think I'm the best qualified candidate? Well, I hope you all think I'm the best qualified candidate, and that would mean a lot to me. I think you've seen my record. You know what I stand for. You know what I'm capable of, and I'm not an unknown variable. And that's always important when decisions are made, to know what you're working with. And I think I provide that for the district. I'm willing to grow and expand, and I have a lot more to learn. This is not an easy learning curve. It's a very steep learning curve, even with someone who has studied for many years. I'm a type A personality, and I've worked hard to learn everything that I possibly can, and you can't. And so what I've learned is to make the connections that help me learn and provide me the information that I don't have. You guys are the experts in education, and I rely on you for that educational expertise. And I think that's what I've learned. So I hope I've conveyed, that I'm an honest person with a lot of integrity and deep care and concern for the district.
Welcome to the Gull Lake Education Association Screening and Recommendation Forum. And thank you for registering to run as a school board member in the upcoming election. This panel is made up of GLEA members, which is GLEA is made up of Gull Lake teachers. The purpose of this forum is to determine candidates that our association would like to endorse for the upcoming school board election. The question and answer session will be recorded. We hope to have it posted for public viewing a little later this week, and we'll share that link with you once it's posted. Do you have any questions about the process that we're going through?
Nope, that sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to try to keep on schedule. We've got about a half an hour for the Q&A, and at this time, I'm going to go ahead and let my friends introduce themselves.
Sure.
Hello, I am Tia Shoemaker, soon to be Vaca. I'm getting married in October. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am union president of the GLEA, and I also teach fourth grade at Ryan Intermediate.
Awesome.
Hi, Jason. I'm Shelly Henderson. I formerly taught fifth grade at Ryan and will be moving into a middle school position in the fall. And I serve as the secretary for the union.
Okay, awesome. Nice to meet you, Shelly. Tia?
I'm Patrick English. I teach STEM at Ryan Intermediate. And I want to let you know our panel is larger than this. We're going to let them view the video
Sure.
after this, and then we'll talk it over. But we do have a larger panel than just us three.
Somebody had to mess up the schedule, right? Couldn't attend on the, yeah.
We're all having our make it work moment. It's not a big deal. But I'm glad you were able to find a time to come and meet with us. That's that really does mean a lot to us, Jason. So appreciate you taking the time, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, great.
As part of an opening statement, go ahead and provide us your background and reasons you're seeking a seat on the Gull Lake School Board of Education.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, I guess just generally, I'm a lifelong Southwest Michigan resident, right? Born and raised in Portage, if you want to get real specific. We moved into the Gull Lake district specifically for the school for my kids in 2012, so about 10 years ago now. Scary to think about, time flies. So I have an incoming freshman and seventh grader, both girls, and so we're got 5 or 6 more years before they go through the process. So I've been in corporate America for the last a little over 20 years, 23 years, 24 years, something like that. Various positions within typical, I'll call it like spreadsheet jockey positions, anywhere from supply chain to finance to human resources. I've currently been running a small business. I guess you could technically call it my second small business since March of this year. It's kind of like a handyman type company. Anyways, so I've got a lot of different experiences in the real world, I guess I would say, not much in the education world. I do coach. I've been coaching football. Well, I coach football out of high school here and there, but I guess I'd say it hasn't been super serious up until maybe the last 7 years or so. So currently I'm an assistant coach with the Gull Lake program. So I get to interact with a lot of the kids through that team as well. So why me? So anyway, for me, this is kind of viewed as like a position of service, not really a politician or a political person or politically motivated, maybe from that perspective. I look at, where the world has been over the last, call it 2, 3, 4 years with all the craziness, right? And I really feel like just probably in general, we didn't do a very good job with kind of equipping people to lead, right? And so I kind of look at that and I just say, okay, I have a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different large and small organizations. I have a connection with the school, and obviously just the personal motivation of making sure that my personal kids are getting the best education that they can, right? So there's kind of a win-win-win type scenario. So those are some of the things that have kind of got me to, seek a board position. I just feel like, there's been so many tough conversations in the last 2 years, and everybody's been put in the middle. And I really just think, there's a lot of back and forth, and, my personal perspective is that we all need to kind of seek personal excellence, and that we all kind of need to seek unity And so I think, that's kind of my visions for the future. When I think about business and when I think about, community, and where we need to go, we all need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. And I think when I look at, our most important assets, or my most important assets, my kids, our kids, and our community, I think that's an area that, could also be improved when I think about the kids that I see now that are 25, that are 30, where I feel like, the personal excellence just doesn't seem to be there. Like maybe it was, I don't know, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And so I feel like, if we can kind of begin to think about how we shape that, right? And obviously, I think Gull Lake is a very strong school system. I don't think there's a whole lot of things broken. Well, I'll say broken, to use it as just a very obvious term. Obviously, we came here for the school system. We're staying here for the school system. I think that Gull Lake has a lot to offer to kids. And my primary focus as a board member would be to make Gull Lake the kind of the preeminent school system of the area, right? So when you think about Portage, you think about Mattawan, you think about all the resources that are dumped into Kalamazoo public schools. I really feel like, Gull Lake should be a school of choice for all of those folks that are in those areas. That would be my perspective. So I said a lot there, so sorry, it's probably outside of my time limit on the question.
No, you're good. Thank you, Jason. All right, question number 2. What are your perceptions of the strengths and weaknesses of Gull Lake Community Schools?
Yeah, so overall, as far as the strengths, honestly, I'll kind of go back to that too. I think the curriculum is really strong, especially when you consider things on the virtual partnership. Right, there's a really good opportunity with that. There's a really good opportunity with the 5th year, where we're allowing, the kids or the children to actually get an associate's degree, essentially free of charge, right? So, I mean, when you think about, what goes into those types of things, I think those are very forward-looking programs. I think they're very strong, and I think it's a very good value proposition for the district. The other thing I think that I think, Gull Lake is still in a really good position, whereas when you look at the size of the organization, right, this still kind of has that very family feel to it. You go to some, as districts get bigger, right, it becomes more and more bureaucratic and less about, oh, hey, I know Tia, and Tia and I are friends, and we saw each other at the Walmart on Saturday when we were shopping, and I'm not saying that I run into a lot of people everywhere or anything, but it does seem to be a little bit more of an open district where you can have conversations with people, and so I do think there's a fair degree of communication from that perspective. I think those are probably some of the bigger strengths. Some of the weaknesses, there are some tactical things I think about that come to mind. And then maybe there are some kind of broader, maybe more forward thinking items. So when we think about tactical stuff, so like transportation comes to mind, right? I know families that are divorced, they have multiple, mom and dad live in 2 different spots in the district, right? But we can only choose one bus stop. And we are essentially saying kids have to go from mom's house to dad's house to get picked up because that's the bus location. And it just, even though the bus stops at mom's house, but kid can't get on bus. And again, I haven't investigated this. I don't know what the situation is. I've just heard this from multiple people. And so it's just something that doesn't seem like, it seems like it could be tactically fixed. And I understand there's a cost element to transportation. I know all the ins and outs of all the different costs that go on to running a business or an organization or a school district, right? So totally get the concept there. I just think, there's some opportunities with things like that. I do think there are, when you think about how do we compete more broadly with other schools in Michigan, how do we compete more broadly with other schools in the country, how do we compete more broadly with other schools around the world, right, that are doing, 7-day-a-week schools and 12-hour day schools and those kind of things. I think we need to be a little more forward thinking on some of the, like the STEAM projects, right? How do we encourage kids to get more into that field? Also at the same time, when you look at some of the labor shortages that we're experiencing now, right? I mean, we have 700,000 baby boomers. They're coming out of the system every year. The teaching profession is no exception to that, right? So as people retire, how are we bringing people back into those positions, and how are we making those things fun, right? I mean, there's a perception that, you know, you can only be a DoorDash driver or a CEO, right? I mean, you can't be a machinist. You can't be a welder. You know, there's some very technical things that take skills. I used to have some of those skills, but they're perishable. And so, you know, how do we encourage kids to kind of move towards that? How do we engage our community partners, right? We have lots of big businesses, small businesses in our district that I'm sure would be very happy to help out and support some of those things. And I know we have some kids involved with some of those things, but you know, I think, you know, that's kind of more of a forward thinking concept, right? When I think about, in essence, how do we compete with places like China? And that's very broad, but how do we compete with schools in Grand Rapids? That's a little bit closer to home, right? We've got schools in Grand Rapids that are Mandarin immersion schools, right? Do we need to think of something like that to be competitive? Do we need to have something like that in our offering? And again, I'm not saying I'm all for that, or we've got to do this. You know, that's not exactly my style, and I'm sure we'll get into that question. These are just some of the things I think about, you know, forward visioning of what the district should be, again, from a personal excellence type perspective.
Thank you, Jason. Next question. What do you see as a school board member's role and responsibility in the effective administration of schools? What do you think the relationship should be between the Board of Education and the superintendent and other school district employees?
Yeah, so the school board is a lot like the board of directors in any kind of publicly traded organization, right? So essentially what they do is they work with the senior leadership to develop the vision and the philosophy, and then the strategy, both the short-term strategy or the tactical strategy and the, I'll say, medium-term strategy is kind of left up to the middle management and the working components of the organization, right? So typically my vision would be very similar from a school board perspective, right? So the school board should be working with the superintendent or I'll call it the senior leadership, you know, to determine what's the philosophy, what's the direction, the longer term vision of Gull Lake Community Schools, right? And then how do we allow everyone within that framework to simply do the best that they can do, right? And realizing that we all have opportunity for improvement. The school board included, myself included. Today when I woke up, the 1,000 mistakes I've already made by 1:47 p.m. in the afternoon. You know, so we need to take that approach, and, you know, being a leader, sometimes, you know, you have to make difficult decisions. You have to make critical decisions, and sometimes you're not given 100% of the information that you'd like to have. You know, and I know that's one of the questions, and we might get into that a little bit as well. But the real role of the school board would be to work with I'll call it the superintendent's office, for lack of a better term, to help set the philosophy and the long-term vision of the school. Then, you know, we should let the transportation director do the best job that they can do for transportation. We should allow the principals to work with the teachers to be the best you know, that's what we're here for, is what you all do is, in essence, you're the operations of everything that goes on with our school district, right? Yeah. So we need to have the best teachers. We need to have the best administration. We need to have the best facilities, you know, and again, not that they're not good today, just how do we make them better? And again, and my role in that too, right? So that's kind of, it goes back to some of the reasons why I want to take on this role, because I feel like I have very good connections externally in the community and the broader community. I feel like, you know, I want to make myself better. I feel like, you know, I can make tough decisions, and I feel like, you know, I can help the district move forward in that direction.
All right, thank you. When making a controversial decision, what strategies do you use? And how can you involve all stakeholders in that decision-making process? If possible, give an example. You may have done this in a public forum or large group.
Yeah, so for the last 12, and I guess I'll just start with the last part first. So for the last 12 years, I've worked in this thing called compensation, right? Which, as you all know, when you have a contract, the contract defines what steps you're at, which defines the rates. In non-organized world, there is some math and science to that, but there's nothing more personal than working on an individual's pay, both their base pay, their incentive pay. And so there's been a lot of controversial things that we've done behind the scenes for various groups and various folks that have a profound impact on jobs and wages. And so I would definitely rely on some of that. But the general tenor or tone that I take when making, I'll say, any decision, whether it's controversial or not, would begin with, active listening. Not the listening that my grandfather did to my grandmother, 100 years ago kind of thing, right? Actively listening, understanding, empathizing with the parties that are involved with the decision-making process on both sides, trying to understand what would the unintended consequences be. I don't want to say there's always unintended consequences, but there are unintended consequences when we say, hey, we think 2 + 2 is going to be 4, but then, 3 is going to be really upset because we came up with 4 instead of 3. And I use that as a really silly analogy, but many times, especially in the world of salary, when you're working with someone's salary and you're trying to hire them or you're trying to promote them, there can be many times, especially in today's world, unintended consequences of, well, we promoted this person, but now the 4 other people that had also the same opportunity are now, disengaged, and they're actively looking to leave our organization, right? And so we did one really good thing, but now we did 4 really bad things that we have to then go back through and spend a whole lot of resources to try to recover from. So those are the types of things, that I have dealt with on a personal basis. And again, you want to gather as much data as you can. You want to be active. You want to empathize with all the parties involved. You want to make the best decision, not Jason's best decision, not Tia's, not Shelly's, not Patrick's best decision, not the decisions we want to make, but the decisions for our school district, right? And again, I think about, what do we do to impact our most important assets, our kids? How do we make those kids be the best leaders, right? Just like the school wants them to be. How do we prepare them for the future? And if we keep those kind of guiding principles in mind, I think, I think that you may still run into trouble, but I think, if you're sticking to your principles, you're using the inputs to help determine the outputs, and you're trying to watch out for the speed bumps. I think there's also collaboration involved, right? If the 4 of us were making a decision, we're going to have to compromise. You're going to need 4 different people. You're going to have 4 different viewpoints on how something can get done. We may have 4 different ways we want to prepare the meal, and we may have to compromise on how that's done. So, that's definitely something that I've had the ability to do throughout my time in private business. And since I've started my own business, it's a little bit different. People come to me with decisions, and then we kind of work through some of the pros and the cons. And ultimately at the end of the day, as an owner, I have a ultimate accountability to whether it succeeds or fails. And hopefully you have a little bit more success than you have a little less failure. But again, part of that is just being personally accountable.
Thank you. How would you respond to a parent who wants the district to limit access to or remove books from the library?
Yeah, that was an interesting question when I saw that one. I'd really want to understand what the motivation is to changing, I'll say broadly, to changing curriculums or changing, adding or subtracting books from an organization. So my personal belief is that this is kind of a free country, right? And I think we need to have access to all kinds of documents and information, especially for kids. I don't think we should be pushing kids one way or the other as far as what they should do, but we should allow them to find out what really gets them motivated. And we should really be allowing them to try to find out and discover. Now is the time for them to discover, you know, do they want to get into being an artist? Do they want to get into being a scientist? Do they want to get into, you know, and if we talk about things that are controversial or personal, you know, we need to, again, go through kind of a process making decision matrix, right? Understanding where the parties are coming from, understanding what are the unintended consequences, you know, and then collaborating together as a group to say, hey, you know, Jason's really not on board with this, but Patrick thinks it's a great idea. You know, is there a solution that we haven't thought about that is in the middle, that is in between, right? Honestly, as far as removing books, I think that could be, you know, a little bit difficult. I just think, you know, our library probably carries all kinds of books, public library that anyone can go to. I understand that there may be some, you know, maturity levels, right? So obviously maybe some of the books that you want to put in your high school are probably not some of the books that you'd want to put in an elementary school. So from that perspective, you know, I'd want to understand a little bit deeper, but you know, when you're talking about 17 or 18-year-old kids who are spending 3 hours a day on TikTok and video gaming with people all over the world, I think, you know, it's an opportunity for us as leaders to try to get them in front of information or try to get them in front of something that maybe has a little more substance than what the 10,000 people on Reddit told them, which is totally preposterous. You know, so from those perspectives, I think there's an opportunity, but I also think, you know, we do need to be careful, right? And understand. And if parents have a specific, like, I don't want my child to be a part of that, then let's have that case by case discussion. And maybe there's a solution for that specific child or that specific parent to help them feel better about what we're doing. But, you know, most of the kids that I know, you know, it's different, right? So we all probably come from the non-internet age, right? When we were kids, and now most kids have a cell phone. You know, I think 7th or 8th grade, I think most kids have a cell phone by then. And you know, you can put controls on and you can do all these things, but there's just a certain level of maturity that's required, you know, at that point. And so I can understand some parents being cautious, but I do think it is an opportunity for the district to be able to lead kids to be a little bit more transparent and to give them, I'll say, the right information or the correct information versus something that they heard from somebody that maybe is a little bit more biased than what a book would be.
Thank you, Jason. Do you have any specific changes that you want to make to the curriculum of the district? And if so, what and why?
Yeah, so honestly, I think a curriculum is a really strong point for Gull Lakes community schools. I think the biggest thing for me, you know, just some of the things that I see, and I don't know if I would push for this, but I would want to get some information around these kind of things. So we have kids right now that, and again, not a lot of kids, not a you know, maybe 1%, 2% of our kids, they're leaving our district to go to another district because another district has an offering. And so, you know, is that really, you know, obviously you can't cater to the entire world, right? But you know, we need to explore those types of opportunities and understand, is that really where we want to keep our niche? You know, so I think college prep, right? Do we want to really be college prep and only college prep? Do we really want to be, and we can throw football under the bus because I'm a football coach, right? Do we really want to be an only football school and not a basketball school? Or do, you know, from a sports analogy type world, right? We have, so I've coached kids in this Gull Lake School District. They've left the district because of things that we did not offer as a district. You know, so are there opportunities for us, again, looking at all the different aspects, right? Cost, resourcing, you know, all the different resources that you can get into, right? Do we have, you know, educators that we feel we can provide, those kind of things? where we can make these changes. And is there enough juice for the squeeze, right? Are we talking 1 kid? Are we talking 10 kids? Are we talking 100 kids? Those are all things you need to understand, right? Again, 2 kids, 3 kids, it's maybe there's not a real, maybe we do need to just limit that at that point. But, to have a mechanism to understand what that could be, I think that's kind of my vision of where curriculum would or could change. So I don't have a defined, like, we have to have auto body shop, or we have to have, I don't have necessarily anything like that. I will say, directionally, we need to try to provide a full offering. I think Gull Lake tries to do a really good job with that overall. I think, there are opportunities to partner with, businesses to help expand some of those opportunities. And some of those things could be extracurricular, I don't know, the term knitting club comes to mind or something. I know no one does that anymore, but I mean, is there something like that would really spark our kids and in turn totally changes their academic world because they've got this club that they're all in on? So those are the kind of things I think where my mind goes to on the question, but I don't have any predetermined curriculums or classes or we must do this, we must not do that. I do think, again, we want to make sure we're doing the right thing for our kids for the long term. And we want to make sure that we have the best everything. And we want to make sure that we're allowing everyone that we have today to try to do the best that they can.
Thank you. Okay, how much latitude should the individual teacher have in the classroom?
Probably the same type of latitude that any professional would have in their job. It's kind of what comes to my mind anyways, when we talk about this topic. I can come to work, I can dress for my day, right? Maybe some days I can wear jeans and, maybe a pullover shirt or something like that. I don't have a lot of meetings and it's not a big deal. And then maybe some days I have big meetings and I need to be, a little bit more formal. My boss doesn't come in, and I understand with children, it's a little bit different, right? But there's not a dress code per se. He doesn't have to talk to me about, hey, this is what it means to be professional, to come in and try to do your best every single day, to wear to have a certain look or to be a certain way. I think teaching should be the same way. I think you all as teachers should, somewhat be telling us, where are the roadblocks? Where are the issues? Where's the choke points? What can we do as an organization to allow you to do the best job that you can? I think, there should be a certain expectation of every educator, every janitor, every bus driver, every person is coming and trying to give their best. And realize that not, hey, I just found out we had to put my dog down last night. Well, I'm not going to be in a great mood today. Everybody understands that, right? So I'm not saying the expectation is that, it's just the mindset, right? And it's the same kind of thing when we coach, right? We're right now we're coaching, we're 6-7 hour practices, for young men. They're not going to be in tune for 6 hours at a time, but the perception is to try to strive to be that way, right? They've got all the societal pressures, all the things going on right now, right? And we're sitting there saying, hey, you've got to concentrate on these 5 things. And I think, it's a very similar perspective when I think about, educators. Educators should, want to come in and try to do the best that they can. And that the organization, I say the organization, the leadership, the school board, the superintendent, the principal, should be trying to provide all the best facilities and remove any of the issues that are out there to try to allow them to be the best. I think you guys have the subject matter, I'll call it the subject matter expertise to really know what the kids need. And, that we're going through the development of the educators to make sure that they're staying kind of up to date, staying fresh. I know it's, a thing in business too, right? You graduate from college and then you blink and 20 years goes by and, the world changes and how business is done changes. And you need to, continue to kind of keep an eye on how you keep up with some of those changes. So I really think, educators should be allowed to do the best job that they can. Obviously, you have to have standards, right? Things you can't do, things certain behavioral things, certain, here's the curriculum we want to do. And if you don't like the curriculum, well, then there's an opportunity to kind of talk through and how do we update the curriculum or change it. But, at the end of the day, as a team, we've all decided, the 4 of us, here's the curriculum we're going to go with. It's very similar in coaching, right? You have 10 coaches, all 10 coaches, we're all on the same page. This is what we're going to do, but there's an opportunity throughout the year where we say, hey, look, maybe we should consider this, or maybe we should consider these slight changes. And then once it's time for the season to start, we're all aligned, 100% aligned. We're 100% on what all of our jobs are. We're 100% committed to doing, whatever it takes to be the best we can be, so that we can help provide the kids to be the best that they can be. Sorry, I'm taking up too much time with these responses. Sorry.
You're doing absolutely fine, Jason. We're on our last question coming up. And I do want to say thank you again for your time coming out here and meeting with us and answering some of these questions. It's really helpful. So I'm going to give you a chance to make a closing statement. And in that statement, if you would help us understand why you're the most qualified person for the school board coming up.
Sure. Yeah, so thank you all very much for the opportunity to have a discussion. I originally, when my first email went to my junk folder, I didn't see it in time. I was like, and I've not heard of the Gull Lake Education Association, right? So I'm kind of like, anyway, so thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And I think the questions are very compelling, right? So I think very good questions, thought-provoking, really gives some different views and glimpses into who all of us are that are potentially running for these seats. And so, with that being said, I feel like I'm bringing probably a unique skill set. I've dealt with some very confidential things, especially throughout the last 12 years of my business career. I know what it takes to start something off the ground. I know a lot of the kids in general, especially kind of more towards the high school age kids, just from some of the stuff that I've done, some of the activities that I've done here in the most recent past. So I think some of those things makes for a unique perspective that I might have. Being a lifelong resident, I'm sure, and I'm sure all the candidates are really qualified for this. I know some of them, I've worked with some of them and some of the subcommittees and stuff. So, I think you all will probably have a difficult job to kind of figure out who we want to endorse, or do we endorse everybody or nobody, or, all of those kind of things. So I do think there's very good candidates to choose from. I just felt like this was something that, I have a good opportunity to help strengthen and fashion the future of the district. I feel like I have unique experiences that allow me to give a little bit of a different skill set or a little bit of a different viewpoint, kind of create some diversity, potentially with different solutions that could be out there that could fit within the broader philosophy of the school district. So that's my main reason for that. For me, this is kind of a one-term type situation. So I don't know, as my kids kind of begin to move towards the university side of things, I would probably look to hand the baton off to another person potentially. So I think, that could be a pro or a con depending on how you want to think of it. But again, I'm not, I don't see myself as a politician. I see myself as really wanting to do what's the best thing for our school district. How do we make it a preeminent school district? And again, it's not Jason's views. That's what's in the best interest of our kids, and listening to you all that are really doing, all of the work and understanding where we need to take our district.